Hello Potters and welcome back to the Pottery Plus Studios. I'm going to show you today how I'm going to trim and finish up the 5-pound bowl that I started on the wheel in the last video. So let's jump over to the wheel and get started. Okay Potters, so today I'm going to be using my foam bat to center this. Remember, you can use a foam bat to center low and wide pieces. It doesn't work so well on tall narrow pieces, but with a big bowl or a plate it works great and you don't have to worry about lugs. Mine's not pretty because it's quite old. I need to get a new one, but yeah, that's what we're working with today. So I've got my bowl here turned upside down. It's leather hard, meaning it's still a little cool, a little damp, but I can touch it and it doesn't leave a fingerprint or a mark. And when I start to trim, it's gonna come off in nice clean ribbons, okay? If it's anything else, then it's either gonna be too wet or it might be too far gone to trim, like if it's coming off in crumbs or making a squeaking sound, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start by centering, just by grabbing it and pushing it towards center until it doesn't feel like it's bumping my hands anymore. And I know that that's a hard thing to put into words. So I know that describing it like that might not be too helpful, but I promise you the first time you feel it, you're going to know exactly what I mean. And I'm feeling like this piece, like I say this every time, it's not going to be perfect because the bottom of it is not perfectly centered, but I'm feeling like that's about as close as I'm going to get it. And I'm okay with that. I can work with that. Now remember, friends, when you're centering, you don't want to center from down here because sometimes the rim and the foot are centered differently. And since we're not trimming, well, sometimes you might be trimming down here, but I guess the point is you just want to center where you're going to be doing your trimming at, okay? All right. So this is quite a big bowl, and there's actually a little bit more excess on the bottom than what I wanted. Like I kind of wish I had pulled a little more up through the walls, but I did my best. And here we are. But it's still a nice big bowl. So I don't want to make the foot like too tiny and dainty. So I'm not even really thinking about the foot here yet, but I know that I don't want it to be disproportionate to the bowl. So I know I'm not looking to make a really narrow foot, meaning I don't have to bring this in too dramatically, but I do need to just really get rid of some excess and make sure that the curve of my bowl is continued all the way from here and then all the way down into the foot. So where it's going kind of like straight up right now, I need to kind of get a curve into that. It's kind of like the reverse of what we were talking about in the throwing portion of this project, how we want to make sure that the inside like remains curved all the way, every step of the process, so that we make sure that the curve is there in the end. It's kind of the same thing with trimming, only in reverse, because you're working on the outside, but we want that curve to be consistent throughout the whole outside of the bowl. Okay, so this feels pretty good. And friends, with a piece like this, when it's kind of required that you leave some bulk at the bottom so that you have enough for a foot, it can be kind of tempting to feel like it's clunky and just want to trim and trim and trim. Be careful with that. You can always kind of start getting used to that tapping method, where if it sounds hollow, you know that you're probably getting close to the thinness that you would want. Also, if your tool starts to make a motion like this, like it's waving up and down, it's probably a good time just to stop and maybe like clean it up as best you can by hand. But that means you've got a thin spot. So, and I know that tapping thing is weird, you guys, but if you tap on your piece like at different thicknesses along the way, you'll start to hear it. And what it sounds like when it gets thin is it has more reverberation to it. Like it sounds more like a drum. I'm hearing it a little bit with this one. I think I could take off a bit more though. So I'm just gonna keep going here a little bit. Maybe do one final pass and then start to decide. I think I do want the foot to be in a little bit further than this, but not much. Not much. You know, you don't want a big bowl that has a tiny foot, because if you think about it, if you fill that bowl up with anything heavy, it's just not going to be very stable. So, okay, I think this is going to be a good size for this foot. I feel like it'll be able to, this size will be good for the silhouette to make it look a lot more refined, but it's also going to be wide enough to hold this bowl like nice and sturdy if it's in use or when it's in use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to start kind of refining or bringing out, not actually really on a refining step, I'm just kind of bringing that foot out from that bulk of clay that's around it. So I'm not really like shaping it or anything yet. I'm just trying to get the bulk of the foot like revealed. I guess that's kind of the word I'm looking for. I'm just trying to get it where I can see it. And then I'm going to go back again, reinforcing my curve of my bowl on the outside. And then I'll start to work on that foot. And folks, something that my students used to get really hung up on was trimming out the interior of the foot. And that is an important step for removing bulk. But I always just used to like to remind them, it doesn't affect the silhouette. Like however much or little material you get out from this part of the bowl, ooh, might be getting a little dry there. Sorry about that squeaking sound. However much or little you get taken out from here doesn't affect the silhouette of the bowl. It doesn't affect the form. It's just it's a like usability and comfort thing. So I don't know. People used to always really focus on that part of the bowl, but you know, like I'm saying, it doesn't show in the end. I am gonna take some bulk out of the middle of this though. I'm just gonna lost control of my tool a little bit. That's okay. If that happens, just go back and kind of do what you can to get your little mistake trimmed out of there, and then just keep on going. And I didn't get it perfectly, but I think that's all I want to fiddle around with that. Let's see. You can still see it there a little bit where I went off track, but I think if I go in and define that edge that I was working on when I made that mistake, it's gonna kind of sort itself out, I think. Yeah, there we go. Just needed a little sharper tool to really dig in and get that definition. Yeah, that looks okay. I think we solved it. Okay. So I'm just gonna start taking little bits out from the middle. And you can do this from the middle going to the outer edge or the other way around. Either way. And I'm using this side of this tool. You know, this tool's a little small for this, but it digs in quite nicely because it is small. All that pressure goes into that small, kind of finer point tool. And it just helps to kind of basically trim out a little bit thicker of the ribbons that we're looking for. It just takes out a little bit more at a time, I find. I mean, I'm sure I could get a tool like this, only a little bit bigger and sharper, and kind of make quicker work of that, but you've heard me say it once, you're hearing me say it again. I do best with just the basic tools. Okay, I'm gonna start to shape my foot a little bit, and I think what I wanna do is take the bulk out of it here so there's more definition between where the bowl and the foot meet. So I'm just gonna kind of angle this tool in, like I'm going like this with it. Not as dramatic as that, but that's kind of the motion that I'm doing. Actually, give that a little bit more height. So I'm kind of bringing it in like a little waist where the bowl and the foot meet. And then I think I want to kind of round it out a little bit as well. That. You can't lean to the side when the camera's in my way, like I'm always saying I like to do, but always lean to the side, check and see if you like the silhouette. I think I want to make that a little bit more dramatic down there. So I'm going to angle my tool in again and really, yeah, get some definition there. And this is what your ribbons should look like, friends. Well, at least with my clay. I don't know. I feel like that would apply to any clay body that you're using, but I guess it could look slightly different but it shouldn't be sticking, or sticking means it's too wet, scraping means it's too dry. So just keep your eyes out for that. Okay, I think that's looking pretty good. So I know that I need to take out some more right here. And when I was being instructed on how to make bowls, taking that curve throughout the whole entire piece was even taken a step further, and we were taught to make even this have a rounded curve to it, kind of like she would say, kind of imagine if the foot wasn't there, how would the curve continue on all the way throughout to this point. But that's a pretty challenging it's a pretty challenging thing to do, and you do have to leave yourself a lot of excess, because to get any kind of a curve right here, you have to dig down pretty far on this outside edge of the interior of the foot. Complicated to put into words, but hopefully you know what I mean enough. And it can just be very, very gentle, you know, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but just a slight dome is kind of what I was always told is, you know, desirable. But again, that's kind of like varsity level, so I think if you can even get any excess out of the bottom at this point, or, you know, if you're a beginner, or you know, even like within your first year or two, I think if you can just clear some bulk out of there, that's a really good start. It's a really good start. I just want to bring some more definition right here to this corner, so that maybe I kind of can achieve that curve a little bit. Oh, I'm scared to go down too deep right there. I don't know exactly how much material I have, but it's just a demo, so I'm going to be brave and try to do it. Try to really get an angled corner right there. Okay, and I know you guys get the point, so I'm not going to go too much further on this, but just see if I can kind of do another shallow pass or two across there. And I know that this had a high point when I took it off the bat, because my bats are getting old too, y'all, and my stuff's getting old. But when I took it off the bat, I noticed it was lumped up there because my bat is kind of sunken in the middle a little bit, just from like wear and tear. So it adds a little extra bump to the bottom of my pieces that has to be taken care of one way or another. All right. So you always want to check and make sure that your high point, yeah, see, that's too high. It's going to rock on the table, so I'm going to have to take some more out of it. I'm actually going to switch over to the round loop, because it really takes out a lot quickly for me. Again, I think tools are so much about preference, not about what tools are right or wrong. So you could do this any which way you needed to. Just kind of trying to move quickly through this. So from here, folks, it's just going to be a matter of refinement, just like always. For me, it's going to be refining that curve, maybe getting some tool marks out of this, getting the crumbs out and away from it, that kind of thing. So if you stuck with us this long, thanks. And I think we'll kind of time lapse a little bit through this last piece, last little bit here, and then I'll show you the final product when I'm done, okay? All right, folks, I think that's a good stopping place. Thanks for hanging in there with us. I hope you found this video helpful. And we always love your feedback, so let us know what you thought. And we'll see ya on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.